And just like that, we are everywhere. Joseph, we finally did it. The number one Pokemon Scarlet and Violet podcast, might be 1 out of 1, but still number 1, is now all over the internet. We're on your favorite services. You can find us there. You can listen to us. You can watch us on YouTube. And oh my goodness, my guy here, not only a Pokemon professor, but legendary artist, an artiste even, designing that logo to make us look so fancy on the freaking podcast page. I love this look. The red and white theme.
Yeah, no, I think it came out fantastic. We don't let Zach trick you. We had some major teamwork come into this, but man, am I happy! I'm happy the way it came out, and now we're definitely stuck on Scarlet. I don't know if I could push him into the Violet. Yeah, I think we're pretty much. This looks too good. It
looks really good. So welcome to episode 6. We're talking about a whole bunch of developments. This week has been crazy. Things about gym leaders, things about Pokemon, things about the gimmick, and maybe a change of course for where we thought this game was going. It is going to be a huge show, but as promised, we have a lovely giveaway of something very special. You haven't seen it, so I'm excited for you to see this. Yeah. All you got to do is go on iTunes, the link will be in the description, and leave us a review. All right, and then you can send us like the screenshot of your review on Twitter, or you can just leave us a comment like, oh, I left a review under this username. Let us know, leave that review, help us get this show out there. Really appreciate it, and you can win. You get your pick. The winner gets to pick one of these. Okay, I'm keeping one so it can be in the background, and then the winner gets this. Check this out. You ready?
I'm so ready.
Bam.
Oh my goodness.
That's so cool. Let me see. Got Violet as well. Giant custom Game Boy carts with Lechonk.
That is legendary. Oh my goodness, that is so cool.
Yeah.
Oh, is this like a company who does this? This is so sick.
I got a guy who 3D prints like giant Nintendo carts, and I thought like getting the old Game Boy style with like the cool new Pokemon, and since they're not putting him on the box, we have him on the box now. And,
the correct decision for sure.
Yeah, and they're I don't know if you can tell on camera, but they're like iridescent, so like this film is like shiny. So yeah, they're pretty sick.
So cool.
The winner gets to pick if they want Violet or Scarlet, and yeah, they're pretty sweet. They have like a built-in hook thing on the back, so you can just like hang it up on like a little hook. Yeah, they're pretty fantastic. So
that's awesome. You see, listen, all I'm saying is if Lechonk was officially on the front, I think we would 100%, it's just the decision. It should have been. It should have been the decision. It's not too late, Game Freak. You saw it here first.
And if not, at least we rectified it. Exactly. And I was trying to decide because like, Pokemon Red doesn't say Pokemon Red, but I felt like since this is like this logo and is like eventually going to be iconic once we know, what everything's for, I figured I'd put the Scarlet and the Violet on there. So yeah, those are.
No, it looks so official, sick. Dude. That's so cool.
Hope you like it. Leave us those reviews, and let's give you something to review today. I want to start off with a little Joseph running you through the gauntlet here, because last episode you told me that Pawmi was not going to be getting an evolution. You said Pawmi is the Pikachu of Gen 9. They don't get evolutions, and I was like, what about Meryl? And you said, well, he's not really the Pikachu of the generation. And now we have a leaked Pawmi evolution.
I mean, it's like clockwork, dude. It's, whoever made this, if it's not real, did it in spite. They had to have seen the last episode. Yeah, dude, I can't believe it. When you sent this to me, I was like, there's no way. I went on record making that comment, and then this happens. All right, well, it's here. If this is real, we have to accept it. So might as well kind of discuss thoughts on it. What are you thinking about it, Zach?
I mean, my first thing is I'm looking at the eyes. That's, I guess, where we're going with all of these, because since you explained the depth of eyes, and I don't know if it's just the angle. To me, it looks really hard to tell. It looks like it could be just plastered on there, but there could be some depth. The thing that I'm surprised by is this neck mane, almost like lion-esque mane or whatever's going on there, and a little bit of a chubster, a little bit of girth there going on, especially in the the lower region there. So
yeah, he is kind of built like a pear. Yeah, I mean, I think the design's real anime. He has like the main character anime hair, looking pretty cool. It's funny, like the depth thing is definitely tough to see on the eyes, but I do see an indentation for the mouth, which does make me kind of feel like there's a possibility. But also one thing that we have to remember now when looking at fakes is people are evolving what they're doing. So there is a chance that this person also was like, you know, if this is fake, they could have just been like, well, clearly we're not doing the plastered on mouths. Let me just, you know, do something. But there are a couple things that, like, number one, really read to me that this could be real. First off, I'm just gonna, you know, say it. The anti-aliasing on it feels
authentic.
feels very authentic. I don't know why anyone would do that for a fake. But I can absolutely, you know, see that being, you know, at least in hardware. But also the background does look to be like one of those, at least the main town that we've seen. The tiling, if you look closely, has that same kind of aesthetic. Granted, it a lot of the image is like whited out.
And then the random two like black marks. I don't really covering random bits. Like what's that about?
I'm wondering if maybe there was a watermark on it, and that was their way of covering it. I'm not too sure though, because it's, you know, anything could be underneath those. But I think if it is real, it is interesting. Not exactly where I would have saw the evolution go. But I mean, I'm interested in seeing if we do get a Pawmi that is dual typed, because that to me is something that would make what is my favorite design of the, you know, the generation so far, maybe worth kind of picking up. But I don't know that I like this design as much as the initial. I don't think it's a bad design. I can see this in Pokemon 100%. But there is something lost in it, you know, becoming.
I'm telling you, when they go bipedal, it's just a problem. It's just like that's
like sometimes it is. It's weird because like growing up, the bipedal ones are always like the like cool like anime ones, right? Like like Lucario, exactly. You know, Mewtwo. You think these Pokemon that are like all the ones in Smash essentially, like except for Bulbasaur. So like you think of the bipedal as like kind of the cool like creatures, but honestly, I've really been feeling like what you said in the previous podcast is the more animalistic nature of the Pokemon makes it feel so much more like you're capturing these creatures. So it does kind of suck to see that we lose that. I also wish he stayed small. I don't know. He looks
cute. Really big. If you look at his feet, like they look tiny, and his body looks massive. And something about this one, even less than the last one, just doesn't scream straight electric to me. I don't know. It just doesn't. I guess it still has the big cheeks, but
it can't stay. That's my one thing is like, if it does have this evolution, if this is real, I'm fine across the board. It cannot stay mono-electric. It's not fair. It's like, why give it an evolution at that point? I personally, I think we're so past these monotypes. Like it almost doesn't even make sense to have them anymore. But I do understand for Pokemon to work, we do need to have like the pure electric, the pure water sometimes, you know, like stuff like that. But I think this one could very much be real. I do, genuinely.
All right. We'll have to wait and see. Probably fake, obviously grain of salt, but never know. Maybe the leakers are listening to this podcast and they're like, we'll show that Joseph. He thinks he knows so much about Pokemon.
Here's your Pawmi evolution. I mean, again, the timing is fantastic. For that alone, I'm very happy that thing came up, because that's hilarious.
On this same wavelength, let's talk about this other leaked Pokemon. This is a frail Pokemon. He's a prankster, and it looks like his name is like Goncho. Which, if he's like a gangster squid, I'm all about this.
Yeah, that would be very, very cool aesthetically. I think it's always tough with the artwork, because it's like anyone can do that. You know, it's so much different from the 3D creations. You know, but I guess, you know, it's not even worth talking about whether it's real or not. I guess it's more just like, if it is, are you happy? Do you like the design?
He's 4 inches tall, which is I don't know.
You know what? I didn't even catch that until just now.
So he's like this big. He's more of like a little oh gosh, I don't know. He's like a tadpole type creature. I mean,
that really makes it a lot less gangster to be.
Yeah. You know, we talked about how when we first saw this about like, okay, they haven't done a lot of like tentacle type stuff. So this is a nice gap to fill. It does have a Gen 1 vibe. It's simplistic, but nifty. You know, if its name is Goncho, it's like got this, you know, Spanish vibe for the region. Its ability is Prankster and Illuminate. It's a water Pokemon. I really like it. It's been documented pulling pranks on people, but I want to know what kind of pranks a 4-inch squid pulls.
Yeah, exactly. The only prank here is that we thought it would be bigger, but it's not. Joke's on us, I guess. I do agree. Like it does, like in a weird way, it does actually fit the Pokemon that we've seen thus far in this new generation. It's in that same design pool where like. Yeah, this could be real. You know, like I can see this in being in the Pokemon world. The 4 inches thing is definitely a lot. And especially now that it looks like in this game in particular, they are sticking to the sizes like as close as possible. Because in the trailer, we see like Flabébé, and Flabébé is like 1 inch tall. Like that's like a small little thing. Yeah, and they're actually that size.
Flabébé is a 4-inch Pokemon, so this is like the same. This is the same size.
So exactly. So we're gonna see this thing looking like this in the like. We're not even gonna see it. I don't know how we're gonna encounter it.
Probably fake because they goofed the height, but it's still a cool idea. And maybe an even cooler idea is let's go to this, and I guess we'll just start sort of more like overarching, and we can narrow down as I keep knocking my mic. So sorry. This whole idea of robots, androids, not authentic, fake, that has really been gaining steam as of late, and potentially parlaying into a theme shift here. Riddler Coup has been posting pictures of Detroit Become Human. He's been talking about fakes for a long time, and basically the idea here, and I'll let you go in more depth, is like, what if it's not past versus future, but like nature versus robot, or nature versus organic versus inorganic, effectively?
Yeah. So I know, you know, obviously, me and Zach are super on top of Riddler Coup right now. I mean, every post I try to at least jump in and have a little bit of time with it. And recently, if you're following Coup, like, you know, usually it's these very cryptic messages, but recently we've just been getting straight up statements like the Detroit Become Human thing that I think really changed the narrative, at least for me. The way I'm looking at everything now was literally just a tweet a couple of days ago from this recording that said you would see similar stuff in Titan. And for those of you who don't know, Riddler Coup's been using the term Titan as the kind of region name, like the catch-all region name. He has said that that's not the name, obviously. Yeah. But that's kind of what he's been referencing. So we see the picture of Detroit Become Human, and this is really interesting because tonally that makes zero sense. You would never look at a game like Detroit Become Human and go, yeah, Pokemon. Also, we've been seeing this "are fake" term thrown around quite a bit, which it seems like a lot of the community has been, you know, between regional fake or like robotic fake. Like there's so many things it can be, and it's never been really deciphered what exactly that means. But it got us to thinking. And yeah, I mean, one thing that Zach and I were talking about was, what if we were a little off and it's not exactly time? You know, it was the immediate thing to think of, because even if you look at the legendaries, their translations quite literally, you know, work with time, you know, especially with Miraidon being literally future Rhydon, essentially. So it's like, right. It's always been kind of, you know, the talking point, and everyone, you know, even in earlier episodes of this podcast, we thought we nailed what the like secret gimmick is. Yeah. But all of this is leading me to believe, what if it is rather than time-based, it is, as you said, organic versus inorganic, which would also still make complete sense with the way the professors are, the way the legendaries are, and really even past and future. But instead of quite literally being the past and the future, it is more of ideals, like looking towards the future, looking towards the past. Right. So what if these regional fakes are Pokemon that we humans have like experimented on and forced regional changes onto? Then it starts to make more sense. The only thing that's really, and Zach, I do want your opinion on this because this is something that we didn't even talk about, but it does make the professors seem a little bit more, I guess, because anytime you think of like futuristic stuff, like you're thinking of these artificial beings, it always feels a little bit more corporate, a little bit more evil. Right. So it is interesting to me, like if I pick, Violet, which I'm still going to do as of now, am I like agreeing with the with the artificial changes being done to Pokemon? Like, is that where my stance is? That's the only thing that's really holding me back, because if that's the case, like I don't know if I feel comfortable artificially changing organic creatures. That feels a little weird.
It would have to be like how they frame it, because if it's like, oh, we're mutilating these Pokemon in factories to make them stronger, like that seems really rough. But if it's like we've modified these Pokemon to be able to like help the land or preserve, like something like that, or if it's just I don't know, they have some add-on that is making their life better or gives them more. But I do think like you can make everything fit, and I think it is very Pokemon-esque, very Japanese-esque to be like, oh, what do we go with the natural world, or do we go with a world modified by technology? And that also makes the professors, I think, you can make a case for them both having very valid points, just like past, first, future. It does very much seem to me, though, like you said, like that the future route, the inorganic route, would be sort of evil, would be sort of not what the region wants, not what the Pokemon want. I don't know how you justify that, unless it's just, I mean, maybe it's like progress versus past. All of these kind of fit. There's a bunch of different ways to do it. I think it's the R-Fake thing and the androids, and even like what's her face? Blanking on her name.
The rival,
Nimona, right?
Nimona, yeah.
Yeah.
Like even the thought that she could be.
Yeah, that she could be a robot, or that her name means, nobody, and that, that all is just very interesting. And when you look at Miraidon and the names today. Yes. Miraidon. Yeah. They fit past, future, they fit inorganic, organic, they fit progress versus whatever. So I still think we're in the ballpark. I just think the specifics could be very interesting. I do think a android based Pokemon world where like you don't know if people are real is very, very cool. It also seems maybe too highbrow for Game Freak storytelling. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I will say is that we have seen Game Freak in this pocket before. I think Black and White is probably, especially for people who've played the games, Black and White and Black 2 and White 2 are probably two of the most well-written pieces of Pokemon media ever, because quite literally what it is it's the liberation of Pokemon, like the idea of liberating these creatures, because it's like, why are they fighting for sport? There's never a consensual moment in you capturing your Pokemon at all. It's literally you beating it down and deciding, now's the time. So
maybe it's not so evil then to have body mod Pokemon.
Maybe, right? Or it is, and we're just going deeper into the rabbit hole. But I think the interesting thing is that Black and White was able to touch on that subject matter while still really, connecting with a younger audience. Like it, we have characters like N, who is probably, again, really the best written like rival character, because it was a guy who was able to talk to Pokemon and was basically the prince of this kingdom. And And all he wants to see is Pokemon be able to be free. Throughout the game, though, he learns that the Pokemon also enjoy battling and having trainers. They don't want to be out in the wild. They want to have a family. And you know, so it was able to handle this topic with grace. But ironically, I feel like Black and you know, Black and White and then Black 2 and White 2 were really not hailed as the best Pokemon games at the time of their release. Which then brings us to X and Y being a lot more childish in nature. I think X and Y is where a lot of people point to the games getting easy. That was the major switch. So I think that could have to do tonally with what happened. Like, you know how, like, especially Japanese developers, if something doesn't work the way they want it to,
very reactive.
They have to, you know, either back to the drawing board or just go back to what you were doing that did work. And X and Y also did have a deep story with, you know, the legendaries literally being life and death, and talking about a 3,000 year war. Like, you know, like it did have dark subject matter, but I think just the topic of whether or not Pokemon deserve to be free is so much deeper than anything we've seen, you know, really before and since then. So having this now, like this dilemma of, you know, if we can modify Pokemon, obviously we would make them better in every way. Is that okay? Is it okay to go against the natural world, the natural order, to force these evolutions, these regional fakes, if you will? Because again, they will be different in this region, but will it have been through evolution or will it have been through necessity? You know,
that could be a really good twist on it, so that maybe it's just a artificial stone, effectively, right? So it's helping them evolve in a different way. So it's not so much like, oh, we're, you know, attaching this robotic sword onto their body, but more it's like, okay, hey, you know, if the Pokemon is, you know, put in this machine or given this, instead of evolving fire to fire, they'll evolve fire to, you know, electric or whatever. And so then that's less evil, and that's still a regional fake because it's not the actual evolution. So, you know, we're getting an off type Haunter, we're getting an off type, you know, whatever. And maybe that, like their authentic, true soul evolution versus their like human chosen evolution or something.
I see. It's so funny that you naturally went there as well, because going back to this ties perfectly into another thing that Riddler Q did post basically a while back, and I did mention it in the last podcast. He posted a picture of Sudowoodo, and right after that picture was done, he did a poll of what's its type, and it was like a cute little fun game. It had rock, it had grass, because obviously, again, Sudowoodo's whole gimmick is that it looks like it's grass, but it's really rock. Right. The third one was any, and then the fourth one was puppy, which is something that he says a lot. So we're not even going to discuss that. This past week, he posted a Teddy Ursa, and it was the same thing. A picture of Teddy Ursa, and then a couple of minutes later, there was a poll, and it was what type? Normal. You know, forgive me, I don't remember the second one. Honey was the third one, or any was the third one, and then honey was the fourth. Whatever. After a while, he did post that they had something in common that would be essential to the gimmick, or one of. Because again, I think the big thing is there are multiple gimmicks, not gameplay gimmicks, but multiple gimmicks. So, you know, like whether that's there being androids in this world, that could be a gimmick as well. But everyone immediately goes, okay, that any type. The fact that we were able to pick any was the corresponding similarity between the two polls. What if there is a way in this region, in Titan, to quite literally make your Pokemon any type you want? You know what I mean? Like, it's not adding a third type like we initially, you know, like episode 2, us talking about. This would be, I don't want my Pawmi to be electric. I want it to be water. Let me equip a water stone to, not the water stone that we have in the game, but like maybe a water crystal, and it turns into a water type Pokemon as long as that's equipped. That can be something that I can very much see working. Now the thing for me that would really sell it is if there was a physical difference to the Pokemon when you equip.
Correct.
Right?
Which I frankly don't if it's any type, there's no way they can do that. They can't have.
There's 18 types, and that's assuming we don't get a new one.
Right?
Which could be something that, again, Fairy, X and Y changed the game up for many reasons. People forget that, like, yes, Mega Evolutions was the big thing of X and Y, but we also got the Fairy typing, which changed the game drastically. We do not often get typing additions. And if we do, it needs to be done with great consideration just because there are 18 types. You have to learn how it fits with all the other ones. And it needs to make sense just off of a visual as well as like audible standpoint. Like when you say fairy, like you got to know what's strong against it and what's not. That is something that needs to be like seriously thought about. But if we're just changing the type of a Pokemon, there would need to be some visual difference. Otherwise, it's like, imagine I'm battling you and I have a Charmander and it's just, you go for a water attack, but turns out I have a electric Charmander. So you just wasted your turn using like water gun on me.
I feel like it would have to be some sort of split path. Like we said, like, it evolves into this or that. I don't think, because to me that seems game breaking, and it just negates so much. If any Pokemon can be any type, then what's the point? So I feel like there would have to be some limitations. It's really interesting how they're going to pull this off. It's all kind of in the same vein, right? We're talking about, maybe there's a past present form. Maybe there's a different type form. So I think we're on the right track. I think we're close, but I think the way that it's actually implemented is going to be very interesting, because it seems like type switching is too much. It seems like any type is too much. So how do they make this fit and impact the gameplay without over impacting the gameplay?
And then again, it's like the regional fake thing is something that, are we going to say, because if it is an artificial thing, are there only a couple of Pokemon that it affects? Because then if that's the case, it's like narratively that seems kind of like a half step as well. Because okay, so let's say Teddiursa and Sudowoodo, since they were used for the poll, like if those two have regional fakes, like these evolutions that we've created, essentially, why Teddiursa and Sudowoodo? It just doesn't, you know what I mean? Like it brings those questions. What if,
because Ku is talking a lot about all the important NPCs use it in game. So what if we don't have access to these regional fakes? Is that a possibility? Like we just come up, like we gym battle, like, this gym leader has Magmar and Charizard, but actually they're, fairy fire instead of, is that a possibility?
The only time I've seen something similar to that, that being like a player kind of locked out of something in a sense that the NPCs have, would probably be like the Colosseum series. So Pokemon Colosseum, Pokemon SD Gale of Darkness. They did something interesting as well that, to be quite honest, I would even count it as like a regional fake. Because in the Ore region, which is where that game takes place, which, there's no way to prove whether or not it's canon in this universe, but we've seen multiple, like Pokemon Snap has its own region too. But anyway, the point being, in that region there are shadow Pokemon that have been corrupted. But the thing that's interesting about shadow Pokemon is that they don't have like type weaknesses really. And they have shadow moves. They also can't like evolve or anything. Like they're stuck, but they're more powerful, but with the cost of having to stay whatever form they are, and essentially be stuck as what they are. You can't, in Pokemon Colosseum, you cannot catch random Pokemon. The only Pokemon that you can catch are other people's shadow Pokemon. You steal it from them, essentially. So that's really the only time I can think of that a trainer has access to a thing that the player doesn't really. But then again, in that game, you can gain access to it. So, but that could also be rectified where, like, let's say, like you said, they have a Fire, Magmar, and Charizard. If you beat them, what if you get whatever turned that, you know what I mean? Like, there is a very real case to be made that, like,
I'm thinking also, maybe, like, Riddler Coup made sort of he alluded to the fact that, oh, maybe the gyms are going to be themed instead of just monotyped, and maybe that would tie in, because then it's fire themed, but they, you know, could be modified to not just be fire. I don't know. I guess I'm just trying my brain to find a way that allows for this multi-typing or fake typing or changing of typing that doesn't just completely blow up in their face and you know, take the whole Pokedex and just nullify. There would have to be some limitation. Like you said, if it's just like there's 6 Pokemon out there that you can catch that can do this, that also seems just super lame. So
yeah, exactly, because it's like at that point just make regional Pokemon, like just make Titan.
Yeah,
Pokemon.
Right, exactly.
You know what I mean? That's why it's like this has to be, and like going back to that tweet in particular, for the gimmicks of Gen 9. One thing that he says, you know, if you look, is that, like you said, that there is a gimmick that was teased, and that nearly all the important NPCs will use it in game. Then he goes on to say the other one is a so-called new concept, which will also influence battles some way. So it looks like whatever the gimmick is that all important NPCs use in game is actually separate from the battle gimmick, which is interesting, because it's like, well, what would a trainer use that's not important to battle?
Races.
Oh, that's so true. All important NPCs will use it in game. You're so right. So hold on, actually, this ties into another leak that we actually I don't even think we planned on really discussing, but it's funny. There was a leak that said that racing, essentially, you know, it looks like everyone is confirming this. Anyone who has any shred, like iota of information on this game has mentioned racing will be in the game. To what extent, we don't know. But a lot of people are believing that you have to beat the gym leaders in a race to be able to battle them. One thing that is very, very, very interesting, and this has been prevalent since, definitely the second trailer, is the flags. The flags that are kind of across, you know, like they're whatever, they're like crossing each other. It's very race-esque, you know, like these could be the finishing, you know, like, so yeah, that wouldn't be battles. You're absolutely right. I think that, and that still fits with everything. But
then if you look further down the tweet, he says R-Fake is another new concept. So then to me, that tells me that that's not the battle affecting one, and therefore maybe it is just strictly some Pokemon and not. Yeah, I don't know. I guess trying to bring this all together, and I don't know if you're okay to move on, but there's more Riddler coup about the gym leaders in Elite Four having occupations. Now, previously we had thought job switching was going to be Pokemon related, but what if the job thing is gym leader related? And I mean, your guess is probably better than mine on what that even possibly means. How does a gym leader have multiple jobs?
Yeah, I think the thing that makes this interesting to me is, like, if you look at the anime, which is, you know, a pretty big leg of the media franchise, we do see the Pokemon, like the gym leaders, do kind of offer something outside of their, like, gym leader position. So, like, Rourke, for instance, from Diamond and Pearl, the first gym leader, is legitimately a coal miner, you know? Like, that's actually how you meet him. He's mining for coal first. And, like, that's first and foremost what his job is. He just also happens to be the gym leader. So it's nothing that we haven't seen before. But the fact that he tweeted in particular, gym leader Elite Four of Titan all have occupations, meaning this is something that's, like, has to be referenced. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like with Rourke, you know he's a miner because it's literally how you meet him. But the other gym leaders, it's really up in the air if they do anything else. This is proof. This is, like, actual, they all have occupations, including the Elite Four. What does that mean? Like, how do we find that out? It has to be relevant to the story. You see, what's making all this really interesting to me, and I think, and Zach, I want to know how you feel about this, because it's something that, like, the further we dive in, it's really making me kind of question things more, is we were pretty much set on this story has to be the simplest story in Pokemon nature. Like in the history of Pokemon, there is no way that they can tell a story that is deep and meaningful while also being engaging to 4-player co-op, open world gameplay, and all of these new gimmicks. Like there's no way to do it. But it almost sounds like this is the most story intensive Pokemon game, because it's like, how are we giving every gym leader in the Elite Four an occupation while also introducing like regional fakes and Detroit Becomes Human, which is a literal narrative game, is being compared to it. It's just like, are we like, I feel like we're close, but I also feel like we're so off the money. Like we have to be, right? Like
we need a trailer desperately to please course correct this. I wonder if it's that much of the story is tied into the gym leaders themselves. So you sort of have these little novellas or little narratives that's like, okay, the gym leader, the town, the race, the battle, that's the narrative. And then you kind of go from pocket to pocket, and maybe the overarching linear narrative is reduced, but the in town, in gym, whatever narrative is more. The other thing I wonder about, them having occupations is perhaps, since it is non-linear, to make the gym leaders not feel minimal, what if the gym leaders are taking part in the towns or are taking part in the world, so more MMO-y, like they have like a routine in a day, and so because it's out of order, these characters have presence in the world, even whether you get to them first or last. The reveal isn't the important part, like sometimes it's like, oh, the gym leader, like where you're going and how you're getting there. It's more like, okay, man, I've seen this gym leader watering the flowers, and I know eventually I can take her on or take him on. I can't think of any other way where their job would matter outside of some sort of world building element. It's not like, oh, this guy is a unless their vehicles are just themed, like, oh, this guy's a
but even then,
Pokemart owners.
That would be like, because you have the 8 gym leaders and then the 4 Elite Four. That's a lot of themes of motorcycles.
It's a lot of races. It's a
lot of races. Yeah. So it's like, to me, it's just it's I don't know. It's interesting. Also, like, completely quick sidebar while we're on the race thing. It is interesting because the actual region itself has to be big enough to allow for multiple. Again, we're talking 8 races for gyms, as well as the 4 for the Elite Four. If this is all, like, if the Elite Four also has racing involved, which I imagine they will. We would have to have like courses to kind of differentiate.
Here's a crazy theory for you. What if they have occupations? You don't meet them in a gym, you meet them at their occupation, and then you race to a more generic battlefield, and then you, like, instead of there being stadiums or gyms, it's like, okay, like whatever you have to do to, convince them to race you, and then you race them to the battlefield and then duke it out there.
Yeah, I mean that could also work. I'm trying to think off top what the 3 kind of like gyms, I guess, they showed in the second trailer, like when they kind of showed like the rock place, the normal like Pokemon battlefield. I'm trying to think like aesthetically how that looked, but because what would be cool that I imagine is like, well, what if it was, like you said, just racing them to this one place to battle, but like the story is getting them to want to battle. I think that could be like, I think that does have some weight to it, because well, even before that, I did want to touch up real quick. I think you're absolutely right. I think this is going to be more character based than huge overarching story based. I'm sure there will be one, but I think it will probably be something as simple as time versus, like past versus future, or organic versus inorganic. It's going to be a very black and white kind of storytelling when it comes to that. I do think that this is going to be Pokemon's chance to focus more on their characters, which is very good. Because as I've said before, like the characters, the trainers themselves are a huge drawing point for a lot of people. So I think if we can actually have gym leaders who have presence in the real world, it's only going to be better for them. Like you said, I personally would love to see, and it would work with the open world, way that they're going about making the game is, like you said, if they have a normal schedule, they get up, they go to their job, and then you could catch them at the gym at some point, or you're able to speak to them at some point to initiate that battle. I think that would be cool, because then it's like, it's not just, just find the gym and then, you and your buddies could go in. It's quite literally like, it's almost like this is completely out of left field, but it's the best thing I can think of. It's like those early kind of like shonen animes, like you think of like early One Piece, where really all it was the gang going island to island and helping with the small problem that island has, and then moving on to the next one. I think that way of storytelling works really well here, because if it was us going town to town, there's a small problem in the town, fix the problem, battle the gym leader, move on to the next town. You can literally do that however you want.
And I think that would allow for maybe multiplayer to factor in more, because multiplayer just going through a string of trainers in a gym, I don't know. I don't know that you can have 4-on-1 battles. I don't know how that really works. Racing is also player restrictive. I don't think you can have 4 people racing against one gym leader. So maybe the multiplayer comes in that they do say like, hey, I'll race you, but first we've got a problem. I'm just making this up, but there's 50 pseudo-wudo blocking, entrance to the, the lake. So you got to go, show that you've beaten 50, and then you like quest-based gimmicks to allow for the gym leader to move forward that incorporate multiplayer, because that's something that still is always in the back of my head. They're really focused on this being co-op. They're really focused on playing with your friends. How does that possibly factor into the structure we know? And so I think the more we blow up the normal structure, maybe the more accurate it is, because we've never had more than one person tackling a gym leader's, obstacle, or however you want to, call that.
Yeah. And I think you kind of laid into a good point here of kind of like one thing that Riddler 2 recently said, and this I think bodes well for the game, is essentially he said something along the lines of, for an open world game to work, you need to have a lot of content, and you need to keep in mind the multiplayer aspect. Like, that's what makes open world games fun, in his opinion. Now, he did rate the game already, kind of
this is hilarious,
which makes almost no sense to do, but it was done. Riddler 2 did put out a whole list of kind of rating previous mainline Pokemon games. Some of the highlights are the two kind of highest rating ones are Black 2 and White 2 at a 9.5, and then Heart Gold and Soul Silver, which originally he put at an 8.5 but upped it to a 9. But what makes this interesting is, again, 10 hours ago from recording this, he posted that Scarlet and Violet plus the DLC, TBD, is an 8.5. Now, honestly, anyone would look at that and be like, oh, it's rated under Heart Gold, Soul Silver, and Black 2 and White 2. And I think that for a lot of people, that initial jerk reaction, knee-jerk reaction, makes it so that it seems like the game doesn't bode well. It means it's like not, it can't be, if it's not on the level of these DS games. Again, that's not even 3DS, that's DS games, both of them.
Yeah.
Then clearly this game has to be pretty mid. But the thing to remember is that Heart Gold, Soul Silver, and Black 2, White 2 are probably the most content-heavy Pokemon games in existence. Black 2, White 2 had an end game called the Pokemon Championship Tournament, where you got to battle every trainer that's ever been in Pokemon. You could battle Red, Blue, Cynthia, Steven. It was awesome. You could even battle real life people who partook in the Pokemon Championship. You could download these Wi-Fi events. It was awesome. Heart Gold, Soul Silver was all of Heart Gold and Soul Silver, and then also Red and Blue. You were able to go back, and it's the only game where you can get 16 badges. So it's for this game to be 0.5, points off from what in my opinion is probably, again, the most content heavy Pokemon game, and it's an open world 3D multiplayer game, and it's scoring even close to, again, essentially the best Pokemon games in terms of the original styling. I think that these are going to be worlds with a lot to do in it. I think I hope so. I feel like they almost have to, right? Because
they do.
If it's just And, we've talked about it. Pokemon Legends Arceus, me, Zach and I, obviously, we can't love it any more than we do. We thought it was a good Pokemon game, a great first step in that direction. But one thing that, I was never able to really get out of my mind is, if it was multiplayer, would it really add to the game if you were able to just run around with your friend? There would be initial, initial novelty of it would always be fun, but right. It's not built for that, it's not really built for two people to run around, especially not four people to run around and do this. So if Scarlet and Violet was just Arceus but multiplayer, you see what I mean? It almost doesn't fit. There has to be more.
There has to be more. I think it ties into the way they've marketed so far. I think it ties into sort of the build up. We have yet to see what really defines this game. And I'll also point out that if you throw out the Diamond Pearl outlier, which Riddler doesn't really like, his rating scale is a 2-point scale. It goes from 7.5 to 9.5. So, So an 8.5 is just, you don't get much variance from him. He's saying, stuff like X and Y are 7.5, Legends Arceus 7.5, Sun and Moon 8, Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire 8, Ultra Sun Ultra Moon 8. So Let's Go Pikachu Eevee 7.5. So they're really for him, Pokemon is 7.5 to 9.5. So this being an 8.5, right there. The DLC thing, I think it's a full nother discussion that he's already kind of just, there's a given that there's DLC or that he knows about DLC. How that takes form, how that takes shape, I think is going to be very interesting and probably a lot based on this game. What the multiplayer looks like will sort of, I think, determine what kind of DLC we get. I don't want us to forget that he really loves this one gym leader with a sexy mole. He's really into this mole gym leader, and not like a mole on the face, I think is what he means.
Yeah, hopefully not like a tear-shaped mole Pokemon. That I don't know that I'm ready for that one, but and apparently it's been teased already. This character in particular that he has this weird obsession with was actually shown in the first trailer. This is I mean, to be fair to that first trailer, it looks like it's jam-packed with everything we would need to know about the game. It's just impossible because, number one, it's not like we have 4K footage of that trailer where we can zoom into the concept art and really analyze anything, or all the logos that are everywhere. There's 10 of them. There's a spider web. There's a Pikachu tail looking thing. There's so much stuff in it to really grab from, but nothing. What makes it weird is he refers to it as if the average person would be able to see it.
Unless it's teasing the locale, they showed some different areas. Maybe it's
true,
she's based in that gym or that town or that area.
Yeah, I know that there was a thread of people literally just screenshotting NPCs in that first trailer and throwing them in, and it's no, I don't think it's that on the nose where it's they literally showed the character. I do think it is more of locale, or even Pokemon, maybe one of the Pokemon in the trailer would work as her kind of main Pokemon. But yeah, and then also it sounds like we have an Elegant and Valiant Elite Four member who reminds him of Takarazuka, who I don't know what that is. We gotta let's pull that up. Huh?
What is that?
Takarazuka.
Oh, this is a Japanese all-female musical theater troupe.
Interesting. Elegant and Valiant. Okay, that made sense. That made sense. Okay, so we have a
theatrical Elite Four.
Yeah. But that made sense. That's completely on brand.
Right.
But that is interesting. An interesting thing to bring up, because remember I did kind of say with Quetzalcoatl, what's it called? The kind of Japanese rooted hair thing
and everything. Yeah.
It is interesting if we have a Takarazuka Elite Four, because ideally they wouldn't be native to the region. if it's based off that, right? You would imagine that it was probably like, oh, they're from Johto or Kanto, which would be interesting because then it does kind of show that there is some kind of like cultural bleeding into one another in this region, which makes the regional fake thing really even more interesting because it's like, I don't know. There's so much stuff to really dive into. The Detroit Become Human thing also kind of messes me up just in hindsight because it's like everything we've seen from the region so far, it doesn't look like they're really focused on technology.
No.
It looks like a normal Spain-based region. Like that's why it's just, to me, it seems like there's so much stuff that like, or there's like one thing that we would just need to.
Well, and one thing I was thinking that could be kind of a nice incorporation of Detroit is if like a lot of things were automated. And so I was thinking back to the gas station Pokemon Center. It's like, oh, what if it's just automated and that allows them to not have as many characters, not have as many NPCs. This is a huge open world, but we do clearly see in the screenshots that there are people manning those gas stations. And in any instance, every instance of character, of art, of town, we see windmills, we see rocks, we see old-fashioned backpacks and scarves. No one is giving off the impression that they are really advanced. Outside of Turo, nobody has that look or that feel. So where that comes in, I still am just utterly confused. And the glimpses we get of your trainer's house also are very mundane. It's not like that is so
yeah,
I don't know. To me, also the word choice of like a precious adventure, like this is not saying like the most advanced, the most forward thinking, futuristic. So I'm just not sure where fakes, robots, replicants, where any of this fits in, and what the Detroit thing in particular, like the fake stuff. Okay, you can make that work any sort of way, but this thing of like androids or robots, like unless it's like, hey, there's like a really separate region, like maybe there's a town or a city or an area that's like, oh, they've kind of gone off the deep end and we have to go kind of liberate it or something. Everything seems to be very standard, and so I don't know.
Yeah, but you see, you actually made an interesting point, and it goes back to like what I was originally saying earlier was, no matter how you look at it, there is no way to chop up the advancement, the scientific portion to be the good side.
Yeah.
It does not seem like this is something the region wants. It doesn't seem like it's built for that. It doesn't look like this is the most technological advanced region by a long shot, especially coming from Sword and Shield, where it was like probably the most advanced region we've seen, where they have trains and they have, like, you know what I mean? Like we saw a lot of technology in Sword and Shield.
Could it be? Sorry, finish.
No, so to me, it's like this seems like a major technological step back, almost even in the designs of the Pokemon.
Could it be that each professor just leads you to how every version has like their unique Pokemon, right? There's the red that are exclusive to red and exclusive to blue. Could it just be that we get sort of more naturalistic, past-focused Pokemon in Scarlet, and we get more... just the more I think about it, Turo and Sada are in the same building. They have the same mathematical whiteboard behind them. It has the same equations and same writing on it. So maybe they're not really going about things in like two dramatically different ways. Maybe they just have a different... Like Turo has brought over Pokemon that are more androidish, and Sada has brought over Pokemon, like something as simple as that.
Yeah. I think in terms of like pulling it off, that would have to be what they're doing. If they want to like, not blow anybody away, but still offer that kind of like depth in terms of differentiating the games, that would be probably what they would do, right? Is this game will have the more like... This game will have Pokemon from Gen 5 up, since they kind of look more new as they're like... And then this game will have Gen 1 to Gen 4, right? Because that was when it was a little bit more natural. I can see that being a thing, but I do think that would be a huge miss missed opportunity in terms of like story-wise. Because again, the thing that makes me feel like it has to be a meaningful thing is just Riddler 2 seems so like locked on to this idea that like the region has all of these things, all these moving parts, these gimmicks, at least 3 that are confirmed essentially at this point. So it's like it makes sense for it to be just the 2 professors just doing their own thing and just having different Pokemon. But again, like seeing the stuff like the Detroit Become Human are just such a red herring to that, because it's like,
right.
Well, if it's not that, then like what could it be? Alternatively, I was thinking, what if it's like, no, but even then it's just, there's so many like crazy theories. Because what I was going to say was we can also have like, what's the word I'm looking for? As if you're like jumping into virtual reality type of stuff, right? So there could be futuristic towns and stuff that we haven't seen, because maybe that's like real crockpot. Like I'm talking like,
I like
tinfoil hat. You know what I mean? Because then it offers like a sense of futuristicness in it while not touching the region itself.
And I want to touch on something that we've never brought up, this specific verbiage from the website. So on the page with Turo and Sada, the math still makes me think something time related, because you're not doing math about how to make an organic, that just, I don't know. But it says each is carrying out research into certain lore passed down in the region. How could lore about futuristic technological advancements be passed down? Like that to me seems like it's got to be something either more supernatural or something more ancient or something of that, a schism of like, oh, the way that the world could go or something. And I just don't know how you pass down like, well, if you attach this specific gear onto this Pokemon, it'll evolve. Like that doesn't seem like something that's passed down.
No, that seems like something that's created.
My hope is that this is just psychotic. Like, it starts off simple and then Nemona is just an android and then the whole world just starts falling. Like, I don't know. Make this just crazy Pokemon. Like, let's just have it be.
What's so funny is the Nemona being an android thing is like, it's so like, I can see that happening. And I don't know why, especially because you said that the translated name would mean something close to like nobody, right? Or like,
right. Yes.
So to me, that's such an interesting like talking point, because the thing is every other name mattered deeply. Like every name that we've seen is tied to the character, like intrinsically. It's just that's just like what it is.
Yeah. Two other things with her. They say she's undisputed. She has undisputed skill in battle, but she's not the best at throwing Pokeballs, which is very strange.
Yeah.
She's an experienced trainer that can't throw a Pokeball. Some people have said maybe she's a legendary. That she's like the third legendary is like trapped inside her somehow. And maybe that ties into like the lore of like, oh, this like, almost, I don't want to say messiah, but like, this legendary chosen one appears, and her green hair, like, is that a tip off to like some green, coloring of the Pokemon?
Mm-hmm. Which would make sense, because if we are getting a third version, Scarlet and Violet are basically, like a little joking on the red and blue, right? Like that's kind of the whole idea. So green being the third could be very much true. I can see them picking. Obviously, they can't do emerald now, but I can see them doing a green color for like a third game. If that's the route they go, whatever, that's up to them. But it is interesting that you brought up the green, because, color-wise, we quite literally have both professors kind of rocking their colors in a sense. We have the kind of warmer outfit and the colder outfit, and then having a green, it kind of made sense. And those are the only 3 kind of real NPCs that we've seen thus far that have any narrative
Pokemon Chartreuse.
There you go.
Rolls off the honestly, tongue,
man. At this point, there's really not much else they could do.
Olive? Pokemon Olive? I mean,
we have Smoliv.
We do. Hey! I'm also looking at other tones of green. There is a British Racing green. So that's what it is. Pokemon British Racing.
There you go. And that ties in everything. Yeah, I don't know, dude. It's so interesting to see how this has evolved since we started the podcast, because it's like we're slowly seeing everything kind of form. And the weird thing is that it all works. Like, you know what I mean? Like, no matter which direction we go in,
we can make a case for it. Yeah.
We can make a case for it. And that, to me, is the most insane thing that I've ever seen happen in a Pokemon cycle. I've never seen this in any other game. Is this kind of like open-ended narrative that like it's really like a one-size-fits-all type of deal, you know? Like,
right.
It really, this game could be anything at this point. And I wouldn't be surprised. So it is interesting to see how it's evolved. And you know, my thought here is whatever the next trailer is, which, you know, we should be hearing something real soon. Whatever the next trailer is. Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of talking about this week. And it would make sense because, you know, as we mentioned previously, the way the Sword and Shield kind of hype cycle ran, it was about this amount of time until the fourth trailer or the third trailer. To me, it's just once the gimmick or gimmicks, I guess, become relevant, everything else falls into place, right?
Yeah.
Like, That's kind of the thought process here.
Has there ever been a more exciting lead up to, like, you know, even before you knew what it was? Has there ever been a time where it's like, okay, this game is going to be so dramatically shaped by what they reveal next? I can't think of one.
No, literally, you know, every Pokemon game has had its thing, right? Like, you know, for me, I think the big thing or the last thing that I was even this kind of excited about really was like Red being in Sun and Moon. Like, I think that was like a what? Like,
yeah.
Because the thing with Pokemon is it's like, what can you do really that changes the gameplay? Like, genuinely, what can you do to a Pokemon game that changes the gameplay? Right. And keeps it like enough Pokemon that everyone will still enjoy it, but also open it to the you know, general public to be able to enjoy it, right?
Right.
There's nothing you can do that will touch the core of what Pokemon is without changing the core of what Pokemon is. What's interesting about Scarlet and Violet is just by saying, literally, the one sentence, this is an open world 4-player co-op game, destroyed everything we know about every Pokemon game ever, because no other Pokemon game can be that. Right. And I think that's why this game in particular is the way it is right now. It's hitting the way it is right now because of the fact that the only promise that has been told to us has been something that has never been done before. And coming off of Pokemon Legends Arceus, where we see there is a way to have open world Pokemon, you know, or at least open area, you know, it opens up this like conversation of like, okay, so how do, you know, I mean, we have it all the time. How does having 3 other players with you change that? Like, the pacing has to be affected. There's no, it's the reason why games like Assassin's Creed or all these big open world games do not do co-op, because it's like, there's no way to accommodate everybody. Mm-hmm. So for me, I think that's really the reason why it's so different.
I totally agree. And I think Nimona is going to be, in hindsight, like just a key reveal, because things I didn't even notice, I guess, before that have been brought to my attention. One, she has some sort of arm wrist device that clearly is going to be tied into something. It's not reminiscent of a past device. 2, she has what looks to be the regional icon, a badge on her shoulder. I don't know if that's a school badge. I don't know what that is, but it is like an orange. So the whole food thing we've talked about maybe does have a big role. And 3, Nimona is wearing different clothes depending on the version. So if she is the green legendary, that would make a lot of sense, given that she can have either a violet skirt and tie or a scarlet skirt, shorts, and tie.
I actually never realized the clothes difference. Yeah,
Me neither.
The fact that it changes. That's very interesting.
So her focal nature in this game and relating to the two versions has to be more than the traditional rival. I just feel based on the words. I mean, she's also just weird because she says, "Are you these threes trainer?" Which still throws me for a loop every time I see that screenshot.
That is. It makes no sense. I mean, we could also be looking too into it. It could very much just be, it's like right before you pick your starter.
Yeah.
And she could be like, "Are you these threes trainer?" And you're like, "No," and I'm picking mine now. So, but also she does battle you with 3 Pokemon, which is interesting because why would you ever go into a battle yourself having 1 and then, the rival having 3 off the bat? That doesn't seem fair. No, there's a lot of things that strike me that this character is so much more important than.
And they call her a powerful trainer. I don't know. I feel like a lot of the rivals have like started with you and grow as you grow.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Very true. Yeah, I the school thing is another aspect that I feel like we never really touched on. And mainly because there's really not much to know about it. But it is interesting that there are 2 different outfits. Yes. We've never had that before. 2 starting outfits that are different. The default trainer usually across the board has always looked the same, depending on which game you got. So it is.
What if there's a whole school simulator in there, like a persona system, and like changing jobs and like?
Dude, I wish, man. I'm telling you, I think Pokemon is the weirdest RPG ever because it like strays away from what JRPGs are doing so hard. The only thing that's really RPG about it is the leveling up of your Pokemon in the battle system. But as far as like outside of that, it's the only RPG where you don't roleplay. There's like no role playing. There's no choices really made in Pokemon other than what team you have,
Right.
Like, and then that's kind of the whole thing with JRPGs is the whole point of a JRPG is supposed to be this like super immersive, like world sim essentially. So I personally would love to see a more the only reason why it's like they can't do too much with it, I imagine, is because you're playing a 10-year-old. Like, I feel like things like Persona kind of get away with it because it's like, you're like, oh,
high school.
I'm like basically a senior in high school. Yeah. Like, that's close enough. But with this, it's like, ugh, how much can a 10-year-old really do? It literally looks like you're going to elementary school. I mean, even the little hats, come on. I mean, it just reads as like, mom dressed you. And like, even the trainer art for the male character is so funny to me. He looks so scared and he's like fits against tie.
Your android mother dressed you. Your robotic parent.
Okay, best case scenario, or I guess worst case scenario. What if that is it, right? Like, what if they're just like, yeah, there's some people are androids, and it's like, that's it. There's there's no big reveal. Just like, yeah, your rival, like Nemona's a cyborg. Like, what do you do with that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's also a very real possibility.
Hopefully we find out, because there are about 5 different ways it could go, and they all make sense. They all work out. Let us know which way you think is the most likely. Where do you think this is going to go? We may find out this week. We may not. We will definitely let you know either way. And make sure to leave that review on iTunes so that you can be the proud owner of a Lechonk edition of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet to display proudly in your house. These are one of a kind, by the way. This isn't like I didn't like find this. I had this design, so that should be pretty fun. Thank you so much for watching, Joseph. Thanks for gracing us with your knowledge and your potentially incorrect knowledge about Pawmi. So we'll have to.
Yeah, I know. This show has just put me in a negative light multiple times already. I'm losing my stripes.
We still love you. Check out Joseph's stuff. Links in the description for that as well. And we'll see you next week with more Scarlet Fever. Thank you so much. Enjoy your week. SwitchForce out.